The world is loud. Cities pulse with neon hearts. People rush through the streets and everyone is trying to be someone. We wear names like armor, chase numbers on screens, and build identities out of fragile applause. Every post, every success, every word we speak, a desperate whisper saying, "See me, remember me." But beneath the noise, there's a quiet truth, a silence that doesn't care who you are. When the lights fade and the crowd disappears, what remains isn't your title, your followers, or your story. It's the stillness behind it all. The space where nothing is missing and nothing needs to be proved. That's where peace lives. That's where you return to what you truly are. From the moment we are born, the world begins to shape us. We are handed names, labels, and expectations, told to stand out, to succeed, to be someone. In school, we're measured by grades. In adulthood, by titles. In the digital world, by hearts and followers. And slowly, without noticing, we begin to mistake visibility for value. We wear masks so perfectly crafted that even we forget who we were before them. We smile when we're tired, pretend when we're lost, and chase dreams that were never truly ours. And yet, despite all the noise, a quiet ache lingers within us, a whisper that says, there must be more than this. Alan Watts once spoke of the illusion of identity, that the self we defend so fiercely is nothing but a temporary role in a cosmic play. And when we see through it, even for a moment, we touch something sacred, a peace that cannot be earned or lost. This is not about abandoning life, but remembering what lies beneath it. So take a deep breath, let the noise settle, and allow this truth to unfold. The beauty of being nobody is that you finally become everything. We live in a world obsessed with identity. Everywhere you look, people are trying to define themselves through careers, possessions, and dots. That's the performance. That's the exhausting dance of pretending to be somebody. And it works, for a while. You gain validation. You gain approval. But with every compliment, the mask tightens. It becomes harder to breathe beneath the expectations, harder to remember what your real face looks like. One day, you wake up and realize you've built a life that doesn't feel like yours. The house, the job, the friends, everything fits, yet something inside feels profoundly empty. It's like standing in a crowded room and feeling invisible. The applause that once thrilled you now echoes hollow. You start to wonder, what happens if I stop performing? But that's the most terrifying question of all, isn't it? Because the moment you take off the mask, the world no longer knows who you are. And maybe, neither do you. You risk rejection. You risk silence. Yet in that silence, there's something extraordinary waiting. Watts often compared life to a play, each of us an actor on a stage. We get so caught up in our roles that we forget it's all theater. We take the drama seriously. We fight for our lines. But when the curtain finally falls, the actor remains, free, whole, untouched. The ego, the I, the identity you protect, is just the costume. It helps you play your part, but it's not who you truly are. The truth is far simpler, far quieter. It cannot be named or captured in a photo. It doesn't need validation. It just is. So maybe the real courage in this world isn't in becoming someone the crowd admires. Maybe it's in daring to remove the mask, to let the illusion dissolve and see what remains underneath. Because when you finally stop pretending, you don't become less. You become real. And that's where the journey begins. Not toward being somebody, but toward rediscovering the one thing you've always been, pure awareness, unmasked and infinite. There comes a moment, quiet, unplanned, often painful, when the mask begins to crack. You feel it first as exhaustion. The weight of keeping up appearances becomes unbearable, and suddenly the applause that once fed your soul feels meaningless. You realize you've been sprinting toward an invisible finish line that keeps moving. And in that moment of stillness, something inside you whispers, "Stop." It's not defeat, it's awakening. Because the moment you stop running, the illusion loses its power. You begin to see that every title, every achievement, every opinion, even your own reflection, is temporary. They are passing clouds, and you, the one who observes them, are the open sky. Alan Watts called this the art of letting go, not a loss, but a liberation. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means no longer gripping life so tightly that you strangle its beauty. It's understanding that the river of existence flows perfectly without your control, that you were never meant to fight the current. But to move with it, gracefully, effortlessly, freely. Think of how a leaf drifts on the surface of a stream. It doesn't resist, it doesn't plan, it simply allows. That is the essence of surrender. And yet, to the mind, surrender feels terrifying. We've been taught to control, to predict, to dominate. But control is an illusion, a fragile wall we build against the tide of impermanence. When you finally loosen your grip, something miraculous happens. You begin to see life not as a struggle, but as a dance. You notice how everything, joy and pain, gain and loss, moves in rhythm. Every rise has a fall, every wave returns to the sea. And when you stop clinging, you start moving with it. Alan Watts once said, "The meaning of life is just to be alive." It is so plain and so obvious and so simple. Yet, everybody rushes around in a great panic, as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves. That is the madness of the modern world, always reaching, never arriving. But the truth is, there's nowhere to arrive. You were already home before you started searching. To let go is to remember that you were never broken, never behind, never unworthy. The voice that told you otherwise was the echo of the mask, not your soul. When you surrender, you stop trying to be perfect, and you start being present. And in that presence, life softens. You begin to notice small miracles, the warmth of sunlight, the rhythm of your breath, the way silence hums between words. You begin to feel alive again. The liberation of letting go is not a one-time event. It's a daily return. Each time you release your need to control, you dissolve a little more into the vastness of existence. You stop being the actor fighting for the spotlight and become the stage upon which everything plays. You realize the self you were trying to fix was never real. It was just a shadow cast by the mind. And as the false self fades, what remains is peace. Raw, unshakable peace. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It simply is. Because the greatest act of strength isn't in holding on. It's in the quiet, sacred courage to finally let go. When you let go of who you thought you were, something extraordinary happens. At first, it feels like death. The ego gasps. The mind panics. There's a hollow silence where your identity used to be, and it feels almost unbearable. But if you stay still long enough, if you resist the urge to fill the silence, you begin to hear it, the soft rhythm of existence itself. This is the dance of nothingness. It's not emptiness as the mind fears it to be. It's fullness, vast, infinite, and alive. It's the realization that you were never separate from anything at all. You are not standing in the universe. You are the universe, looking back at itself through human eyes. Alan Watts often spoke of this paradox, that when the self disappears, the world becomes more vivid, more intimate. When you stop being the observer, the boundary between you and life dissolves. The sky is no longer above you, it breathes with you. The trees no longer stand around you, they move as you. And suddenly, the ordinary becomes sacred. The sound of rain, the whisper of wind, the stillness before dawn, all of it pulses with the same life that beats within your chest. To be nobody is to dance with this truth. It's to flow without destination, to move without effort. Like music that doesn't need a reason to exist, it just plays because it is. You stop asking, "What is my purpose?" and start living as the purpose itself. Because life was never meant to be figured out, it was meant to be felt. Nothingness, in its truest sense, isn't bleak or lonely. It's pure potential, a blank canvas upon which everything appears and disappears. It's the silence that allows every song to be heard, the space that holds every form. And when you awaken to it, fear loses its grip. You realize that even death is not an ending, but a transformation, a wave returning to the ocean it came from. The dance of nothingness is the final surrender. It is laughter through tears, chaos wrapped in stillness. It is freedom from every should, every must, every illusion of control. You stop chasing meaning and start becoming meaning itself, fluid, timeless, unbound. Watts once said, "You are a function of what the whole universe is doing, in the same way that a wave is a function of what the whole ocean is doing." When you understand this, humility and wonder fill the space where pride and fear once lived. You bow not in defeat, but in awe. You no longer need to conquer life. You participate in it, like a note perfectly placed within a symphony too vast to comprehend. And in that state, you discover a beauty beyond words, the beauty of being nobody. Because in being nobody, you become everything, free from comparison, free from striving, free from the story of me. You dissolve into the mystery that has always been here, quietly waiting for you to notice. The dance of nothingness isn't something you learn, it's something you remember. Because deep down, you've always known it. You are not separate. You are not small. You are not lost. You are the silence between thoughts, the breath between worlds, the space where the universe dances endlessly. And so, after all the striving, all the pretending, all the noise, you return, not as the person you tried to become, but as the awareness that has been watching it all along. The story of somebody begins to fade, and what's left isn't emptiness, but peace. It's like the end of a long storm. The air is still heavy with memory, but the wind has calmed, and the light begins to break through. Alan Watts once said, "Trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. You can't ever capture what you are, because what you truly are isn't an object, a role, or an idea. You are the subject of all experience. You are the watcher of the dream. And once you stop fighting to be someone, you start to notice the miracle that was always unfolding without your control. The beauty of being nobody is not about erasing yourself. It's about dissolving into the truth that has no name. It's about walking through life lightly, knowing that everything you touch, love, or lose is part of one endless motion. You laugh more. You forgive easier. You stop demanding that life makes sense, because it doesn't have to. It just is. When you stop taking yourself so seriously, you rediscover wonder. You see how the same intelligence that moves galaxies also moves your breath. You realize that the person you thought you were, your name, your history, your image, was just a beautiful disguise the universe wore for a little while. And when the disguise falls away, what remains is pure presence, the kind that doesn't need to be anything. You no longer chase meaning, you embody it. You no longer cling to love, you are it. And you no longer fear death, because you finally understand that what you are can never die. So let the world rush. Let others chase titles and approval. You stay here in this quiet truth. Breathe. Watch. Be. Because in the end, the most beautiful thing you can ever become is nobody at all.